Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Office Hours with Kris Johnson. Today we're going to be taking a look at 16 different ways to play through the cycle of ascending perfect fourths and ascending perfect fifths. To start off, I'm going to play for you all of the 16 patterns that we're going to study today. Alright, now that you've heard all 16 patterns, let's take a closer look at the circle of fourths and circle of fifths. So, with this particular diagram, if we move to the left, we're dealing with the cycle of ascending perfect fourths. Let's hear what that sounds like when we cycle through all the way to the left. Now, if we're to move to the right, we're looking at a sequence of ascending perfect fifths. Let's hear what that sounds like. Now, this entire lesson is going to look at some different patterns that we could use for any of those two sequences. That's going to move us all the way through all 12 notes of the chromatic scale. But first, let's take a closer look at each of the intervals that we're studying. If we were to move from C up to F, we'd be looking at an interval of an ascending perfect fourth. And if we were to move down from C to F, we're looking at an interval of a descending perfect fifth. Either way, we're moving from C to F. For the purposes of this video, we're always going to refer to this interval as an ascending perfect fourth, just to make things easy. Now the same concept applies as we're moving from C up to G. We have the interval of an ascending perfect fifth. And if we were to move down from C to G, we'd be looking at a descending perfect fourth. For the purposes of this video, as we move from C to G, we're always going to refer to it as ascending perfect fifths. Now that we have that out of the way, let's take a look at a two-note pattern that moves through a sequence of ascending perfect fourths. This particular pattern moves up every 2 notes. And as you can see, it'll move down every other note as well. Now, there's an implied motion that happens every 2 notes that we're going to study. We're looking at C to B flat, A flat, F sharp, E, D, and C. This sounds like a whole tone scale, but it's also known as a sequence of descending major seconds. Now let's invert that progression, and we're going to move up in major seconds from C all the way until we hit C again. This gives us a sequence of ascending major seconds, which once again sounds like a whole tone scale. Now let's still apply an interval of a perfect fourth above each note. Here's the end result. Now we're going to look at a two-note pattern that uses ascending perfect fifths. You can see that we're moving down every other note. And then in between each two-note pattern, we're moving up, always maintaining the integrity of the circle of fifths. The implied sequence here moves us up a whole tone scale from C to C, giving us a sequence of ascending major seconds, each time having that interval of an ascending perfect fifth or descending perfect fourth underneath. All right, let's flip that implied motion over and use a descending sequence of major seconds, coming down from C all the way until we hit C again. So again, this is a sequence of descending major seconds. But each time, we're still going to maintain this interval of an ascending perfect fifth or descending perfect fourth. Next, we'll take a look at a three-note pattern of ascending perfect fourths. In this three-note pattern, between notes 1 and 2, we're always going to move up. And in between notes 2 and 3, we're moving down. The implied motion that we have moving up here is from C to E flat, F sharp, A, and C. This gives us a sequence of ascending minor thirds, which sounds just like a C fully diminished seventh chord, with this three-note pattern. All right, let's invert that and move down in minor thirds instead, from C to A to F sharp to E flat to C. And again, this gives us a sequence of descending minor thirds. We're still going to play the same three-note pattern that moves up between notes 1 and 2 in a three-note pattern, and down between 2 and 3. Here it is off of C, A, F sharp, E flat, landing on C. Now we'll look at a three-note pattern using ascending perfect fifths. For this pattern, we're moving down between the first and second note of each three-note grouping. And we're moving up between the second and third note. The implied motion here, every three notes, moves from C to A, F sharp, E flat, and C. This gives us a sequence of descending minor thirds. All with this three-note pattern played over it. Let's flip that descending sequence of minor thirds and move up instead, from C to E flat, F sharp, A, landing on C. This gives us ascending minor thirds. We're still going to use the same pattern where we move down between notes 1 and 2 in a 3-note grouping, and up between notes 2 and 3. Here it is off of C, E flat, F sharp, A, landing on C. Now we're going to look at a 4-note pattern using a sequence of ascending perfect fourths. We're going to move up between notes 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 of a 4-note pattern. And we're going to move down between notes 3 and 4. Every 4 notes, this implies a sequence of descending major thirds. With this 4-note pattern off of each one. Now A flat, E, landing on C. Let's invert that and move up in major thirds instead. Here we're moving from C up to E to A flat to C, which gives us a sequence of ascending major thirds, which sounds like an augmented triad. Now we're going to play that same 4th pattern where we move up between notes 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 in a 4-note pattern, and down between notes 3 and 4. Here it is off of C, E, A flat, resolving to C. Now we're going to take a 4-note pattern over a sequence of ascending perfect fifths. We're moving down between the 1st and 2nd and 2nd, 3rd notes of a 4-note grouping. And we're moving up in between the 3rd and 4th note. This implies a sequence of ascending major thirds, which sounds like an ascending C augmented triad. Now, let's move down in major thirds and see what happens when we invert it. From C to A flat to E to C, which is descending major thirds. And we're still going to play our same pattern where we move down between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, and up between notes 3 and 4 of this 4-note pattern. Here it is off of C, A flat, E, landing on C. All right, now things are about to get really crazy because we're going to take a look at a 5-note pattern moving through a sequence of ascending perfect fourths. So as you can see, we're moving up in a 5-note grouping between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, and 4 and 5. And we're moving down in between the 3rd and 4th note of each grouping. The implied sequence every 5 notes moves us up the chromatic scale, which is a sequence of ascending minor seconds. Let's invert that and see what happens when we play the same pattern coming down chromatically. So we're going to move down in minor seconds from C to B, B flat, all the way down until we land on C again. And we're still going to play the same pattern that moves up between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, and 4 and 5, and a 5-note pattern, and down in between notes 3 and 4. All right, let's see what that sounds like. First, we're going to start on C, move down to B, B flat, A, etc. Here it is all together. Now let's take a look at a 5-note pattern using ascending perfect fifths. We're going to move down in between notes 1 and 2, 2 and 3, and 4 and 5, and a 5-note pattern. And we're going to move up between the 3rd and 4th note of each 5-note pattern. Now this implies a descending sequence of minor seconds, which is just coming down the chromatic scale. And each time we're playing this 5-note pattern. Off of B, B flat, etc. Let's invert this sequence of descending minor seconds and move the same pattern up a sequence of ascending minor seconds, which moves us from C to D flat to D up chromatically all the way until we reach C again. And we're still using the same pattern where we're moving down in between notes 1 and 2, 2 and 3, and 4 and 5 of our 5-note pattern. And we're moving up in between the 3rd and 4th note of that pattern. So, here it is off of C. Now D flat. D, E flat, etc. Here's the whole thing where we use a 5-note pattern of ascending perfect fifths with inverted motion.